What happened in the past few hours is truly remarkable. It was never just an ordinary Russian raid. What happened exactly was not just the bombing of a bridge in Ukraine, but rather the beginning of the complete collapse of Ukraine. And the biggest and most shocking surprise that was officially announced by Putin yesterday has made Europe tremble with fear today and reconsider everything 100 times. Has Russia actually begun its first steps toward fully controlling Ukraine? Why is yesterday's attack considered the most dangerous turning point in this war since the beginning? This is what we will reveal today. Stay with us. Dear viewers, peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings, and welcome to our renewed meeting today, God willing, from the series of opinion episodes which we dedicate to the latest developments in this Russian-Ukrainian war. Yesterday, dear viewers, Russia has taken the first steps before seizing the city of Odesa, which is located in southern Ukraine, the city that overlooks the Black Sea, the city whose ports Ukraine relies on for 95% of its imports and exports. So in a day, yesterday, the Russian army launched a series of raids on the main bridge that connects the city of Odesa and the entire southern region of Ukraine with the country of Moldova or with the country of Romania. In other words, it connects it to Western countries, connects it to a group of NATO countries, and the most important of these countries is Germany. So this attack actually started on Thursday and continued on Friday, whether with ballistic missiles or with drones. Watch as this bridge was sabotaged and thus the M15 highway was cut off, meaning he was talking about the supply route that completely connects the southern part of Ukraine to NATO countries like Romania. And this road is not the only one that connects Moldova to Ukraine, but it is the shortest. Through it, Ukraine ensures that military supplies reach the Odesa region and the southern front lines very quickly. Therefore, the Ukrainian authorities have made statements saying that they are currently working on developing new routes to ensure the continuity of logistic services in this southern region. But in reality, the attack was a huge shock for Ukraine because, first of all, this attack cut off 60. I'll explain how Ukraine's fuel imports reached that percentage. And the second and more serious thing is that this attack cut off Ukrainian supplies to a large area of Odesa province, an area that includes one of the most important Ukrainian cities called Izmail. This area covers more than 500 square kilometers. It's almost the size of the country of Andorra. For example, it's an entire area that includes dozens of cities and both rural and urban centers. It now only has a connection today with Moldova and Romania, meaning its connection with the rest of Ukrainian territory has been cut off and the road no longer directly links it with the rest of Ukrainian lands. And let's not forget that the Russian army also launched attacks this week, causing destruction as well. That means the only railway line that also connects Odesa to Romania is in this same area. So it's clear now that the Russians are taking revenge on Ukraine. After Ukraine started. As I explained to you in one of the previous episodes, Ukraine started attacking Russian commercial transport ships in the Black Sea region or in different areas around the world, so now Russia is responding in kind. You opened a new front of fighting in the Black Sea region, so now you have to bear the consequences. Russia has started a new plan to destroy all Ukrainian bridges on the Dnieper River, the Danube River, and also on the Dniester River, and so on. Now it is working to completely besiege the southern region of Ukraine, and so on. It is targeting the ports, cutting off commercial supplies, cutting off military supplies. It wants to completely isolate this front. This new tactic has never been used by Russia since the beginning of this war, and Ukraine has never used it either. For the first time, this tactic is being used, and Russia is using this tactic today with low-cost drones. So here we should pay close attention that Russia is managing this war in very smart ways. They are conducting this war economically with the lowest possible cost. For example, today Russia can destroy bridges like these, roads like these, and cut off supplies in a devastating way, causing widespread destruction. But this would be done using expensive missiles. For Russia, the cost of a single missile might exceed $1 million or even $2 million or more than that. That's why now they are using a different tactic. Instead, they are using drones. Look at the Iranian-made drones, which are low cost. These drones do not cause widespread destruction to these bridges and roads, but they do cause damage. They are capable of stopping and cutting off supplies at the lowest possible cost. Even if this road or bridge is repaired again, they simply send another low-cost drone, and so on. This way, they always ensure the supply lines are cut off at the lowest possible cost. At the same time, Ukraine finds that any repairs it makes are destroyed again as soon as they are completed. So it loses the motivation to repair any bridge or any road. Russia now may not be using these drones just to reduce costs. That's not the only reason. Maybe even more than that. It also doesn't want to cause complete destruction of the infrastructure in this area. Why did they get involved? Because it wants it to be usable, since it is now planning to take control of this area. It wants to get these bridges, these roads, and the rest of the civilian facilities and so on intact, only needing minor repairs. To put it plainly, Russia does not want to take control of completely scorched land. It wants land with its civilian and logistical facilities and so on, so that it remains productive, and also so that after taking control, it doesn't cost the Russians a lot of money for reconstruction. Especially since we find that these bridges, for example, are originally Russian. They are historical bridges built during the Soviet era. So Russia does not want to destroy them completely. It wants to preserve this history in the region as it is. So now there's a new tactic, a very significant tactic that Russia is relying on in the region. These attacks will continue, in the coming phase. And of course, this will have a very significant impact on Ukraine's ability to hold out, because we're talking about areas that are extremely important for Ukraine. They are the backbone of logistical supplies. For example, there are ports on the Danube River near the border with Romania, through which Ukraine receives fuel, weapons, and so on. This river, which passes through Romania, Bulgaria, and Croatia, and even reaches Germany, is considered one of the most important supply routes to Ukraine. Now, this route is collapsing. Ukraine will no longer be able to receive any military or energy supplies through this route. The only supply line left will be from the western border, meaning the border with Poland, and from southern Romania. This is a very long and costly supply route, honestly. And as I explained to you in one of the previous episodes, when Ukraine started attacking Russian transport ships and began targeting energy storage centers overlooking the Black Sea, what did it actually do? It gave the Russians a pretext to use this new tactic. Russia was waging a war in Ukraine, but it was a more humane, less destructive war. That means not crossing a set of red lines, not killing civilians, not striking civilian facilities, not hitting commercial sites, energy facilities, and so on, so that it wouldn't be accused of terrorism or things like that. But when Ukraine crosses this line, when it crosses a set of lines, like when it started hitting energy centers and so on, when it crosses such a line, it gives the Russians an excuse. For this reason, the Russians didn't use this tactic before, despite how powerful it is, despite its effectiveness. and despite the great impact this tactic has on the battlefronts. So now the war has started to take a new and different turn, and the war has begun to change significantly in favor of the Russians. Ukraine, I have to say, will suffer greatly. In the coming phase, it will face major problems in supplying Odesa province with food, fuel and weapons. And this is just the beginning, because this will inevitably lead to the collapse of this region. Then the landing will begin, maybe a naval landing, maybe an airborne landing, to take control of this area. Russia is now sending a clear message to all Europeans, not just to Ukraine. It's sending a message to all Europeans. You want this war to continue, you refuse to grant sovereignty to Russia over these areas in Donbass and so on. So now get ready for what's coming. These conditions will become greater. These conditions will become the recognition of Russia's sovereignty, even over the Odesa region as well. Ukraine will be landlocked without sea access. If this war continues, it means more and more, and pay close attention that at the same time the Russian army is still advancing, still gaining new territory, all along the front line. Russian President Putin appeared yesterday in a lengthy television interview, answering dozens of questions. But the most important new piece of information was revealed for the first time, and it caused great fear among the Ukrainians and the Europeans. And what is it? Did he officially reveal the real number of Russian forces fighting this war in Ukraine? This number, as I said, caused a great deal of fear among the Europeans. We're talking about the Europeans supporting Ukraine, France, Britain, Germany, and so on. What did he say, Putin? He said that 700,000 Russian soldiers are now fighting in Ukraine. 700,000 soldiers, a huge number. It's a number that causes concern, that causes fear in Germany, in France, in Britain. And what's even more dangerous than this is that Putin said 400,000 soldiers were recruited just this year, 2025, 400,000 soldiers. He said they were born in the 90s, meaning they're young people. So the situation is very serious. This made the Europeans, who are planning for a major war against the Russians, sound the alarm. The Europeans, who today are facing great difficulties in recruiting enough European soldiers, are also having a hard time imposing mandatory conscription. Today, they are discovering that Russia has recruited 400,000 soldiers in just 1 year, and they are from the 90s generation, meaning they're young people. It's a very large number that no one could have imagined. This means that Russia is capable of recruiting millions if it wants to, if necessary. So this is a new factor that makes Europeans today rethink 1,000 times how they can win this war in Ukraine. How can they defeat Russia in a major war? Russia. It turned out that it is capable of manufacturing and producing all types of weapons in quantities many times greater than what the whole of Europe produces today. And it also turned out that it is capable of recruiting many times more soldiers than all of Europe combined could possibly recruit. Subscribe. The head of Ukrainian intelligence also made a shocking statement. He said plainly, "We have lost this battle and do not blame Russia." He said there has been a complete failure in the conscription process inside Ukraine. Now, Ukraine has reached a point where the Ukrainian citizen prefers prison on charges of disobedience rather than accepting conscription and being on the front lines. They have reached a very dangerous point. The situation in Ukraine is collapsing day by day. The Russian president, Putin, said the statement was very clear. He said, "Wherever a Russian soldier sets foot, that land will become Russian." Meaning, if there is no agreement to stop this war according to these Russian conditions, there will be other conditions. When Russia takes control of other territories like Odesa or others, these lands will definitely become Russian. With these new tactics that Russia has started to use today, they will become Russian territories. Now we can summarize by saying that Russia has started the first steps to take control of the Odesa region. They have begun the initial steps of besieging it. Ukraine, maybe in a few days, maybe just a week, will be left without any access to the sea. That's all for now, dear viewers. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Peace be upon you, and see you next time.